the ugly daughter. They sent away, but she became a cowboy's greatest treasure. Emma had always felt like she didn't belong. From the moment she could remember, her parents seemed to notice everything about her except her heart. They would compare her to her older siblings, her sister, who was graceful and clever, and her brother, who could ride horses better than anyone else in the county.
"Why can't you be more like them?"
her mother would sigh, shaking her head. And when she asked what she had done wrong, her father would just frown and tell her to focus on chores. Every morning, Emma would rise before the sun, quietly completing the tasks on the farm that no one seemed to appreciate. She fed the chickens, swept the floors, carried water from the well, and tended the garden. She did it all without complaint, though the words ugly and useless often echoed in her mind. The neighbors would sometimes stop by, and her parents would point to her and mutter under their breath about how clumsy and plain she looked. Emma would smile politely, pretending she didn't hear them, but inside, her heart ached. She loved her family, but love seemed to be a one-way street, given to her siblings, not to her. Emma's older sister Clara had long golden hair and eyes that sparkled like the river in spring. Brother Daniel had broad shoulders and a natural talent with horses, earning the admiration of the local ranchers. And then there was Emma, whose hair was a tangled brown mess, whose hands were rough from chores, and whose voice was soft and barely heard over the busy farmhouse. Every time she tried to speak up, she was ignored or laughed at. Disparison. And yet Emma had a gentle curiosity and a sense of kindness that no one seemed to notice. She found joy in small things, the sound of the wind through the trees, the patterns in the clouds, and the quiet moments when she could talk to the animals she loved. One summer evening, when the sun painted the sky in shades of pink and orange, Emma overheard her parents talking in the barn. She had been collecting eggs when she paused to listen. "Burden," her mother said, shaking her head, 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 shaking her head. "She's just there." Her father sighed, leaning against the wooden beam. "It's time. She should go live with your aunt in town. Maybe she'll learn something there."
"We can't waste more time worrying about her."
Emma's stomach dropped. Her heart beat so fast she thought it might burst. Breath. She wanted to cry, but she couldn't. Instead, she quietly collected the last of the eggs, her hands trembling. That night, she lay on her straw mattress, staring at the wooden ceiling, imagining a life far away, a life where she was not ugly or unwanted, where she could prove that she was capable of something more than chores and quiet suffering. Break. A week later, the arrangements were made. Emma packed a small bag with a few clothes she owned, a worn journal and a locket that had belonged to her grandmother. Breaking. She did not know what awaited her in the town, but anything was better than the life she had left behind. When she said goodbye to her parents, her mother did not hug her. Her father barely looked at her. Her siblings offered polite nods, but no warmth. With a deep breath, Emma stepped onto the wagon that would take her away. She did not cry, though tears threatened her eyes. The journey to town was long and dusty. Emma looked out at the rolling hills, the green fields, and the wide sky above. For the first time, she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could find a place where she mattered. She tried to imagine herself smiling, laughing, and being accepted, though the old voice of doubt whispered constantly in her mind, "Who would want someone like me?" She wondered. Upon arriving in town, Emma was overwhelmed. The streets were narrow and crowded, filled with people moving quickly and talking loudly. Horses clopped along the dirt roads, and the smell of bread, smoke, and hay mingled in the air. Her aunt, a stern woman with sharp eyes, greeted her at the doorstep. "You'll stay here for a while," she said. "Bye. Help around the house and try not to be a bother." There was no warmth in her voice, no welcome, only expectation. Emma nodded politely, trying to hide her disappointment. The first few days were the hardest. Emma was expected to clean the house from dawn to dusk, run errands, and care for her aunt's younger children. She was exhausted, and no one offered praise or encouragement. At night she would sit by the window, watching the stars and wishing for a life that felt like it belonged to her. Slowly, though, she began to notice the town around her. The people were different from her family. They laughed more freely, joked with neighbors, and had stories to share. Emma yearned to be part of their world. But every time she tried to speak up, she felt small and invisible. One afternoon, while delivering a basket of vegetables to a nearby ranch, Emma saw a man working in the yard. He was tall, with broad shoulders and strong hands. His face was weathered from years in the sun, but his eyes were kind and observant. He was the owner of the ranch, a man named Jack. Emma paused at the fence, unsure whether to call out. Jack noticed her and waved, smiling faintly. "Hello there!" Breaths. "Need help?" he asked. Emma nodded, holding out the basket. I can help, if you want." Jack raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Instead, he nodded toward the barn. "Start there. There's always work to do." Over the next few weeks, Emma returned to the ranch, helping with feeding the animals, mending fences, and cleaning the stables. It was hard work, but it was different from the endless chores in her aunt's house. Here, her efforts mattered, perhaps. She could see the results of her work. The animals fed, the fences repaired, the barn clean and organized. Jack began to notice her determination, though he never said much. Emma took comfort in the quiet acknowledgement in his eyes. Despite the long hours and physical strain, Emma felt alive. Brrrr! She discovered she had a natural talent with the horses, learning quickly how to groom them, saddle them, and even ride a little. She had never ridden a horse before, but with Jack's guidance, she began to feel the rhythm of the animal beneath her. For the first time, she felt capable, strong, and valued. Even as Emma's skills grew, the shadows of her past still lingered. She remembered the harsh words of her parents, the cruel laughter of the neighbors, and the nights when she cried alone in her straw mattress. Sometimes the doubt crept in. I'm not enough. I'll never be enough. But slowly the ranch work, the animals, and Jack's quiet recognition began to chip away at her insecurities. She realized that maybe, just maybe, her worth was not determined by looks or approval, but by her courage, kindness, and willingness to work hard. One evening, after a long day of work, Emma sat on the porch of the barn, brushing a horse named Daisy. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow across the fields. Jack approached, carrying a bucket of water. He handed it to her without a word and watched her work. For a moment, there was no judgment, no expectation, just silent understanding. Emma smiled faintly, feeling a sense of peace she had never known at home. As night fell and the stars appeared, Emma felt a spark of hope for the future. She might be far from her family, far from the farm where she was deemed ugly and unworthy, but here she could be someone who mattered. She could learn, grow, and find respect. Perhaps one day she would be proud of herself, not because of anyone else's approval, but because of what she had accomplished with her own hands and heart.
The days that followed were filled with small victories.
Breaths. Emma learned how to ride more confidently, care for sick animals, and even mend broken fences by herself. Each task completed gave her a little more courage, a little more belief in her own worth. And though Jack still said little, his quiet approval meant more to Emma than any praise she had ever received from her family. By the time autumn arrived, Emma was no longer the timid, frightened girl who had left her parents' farm. She was stronger, more confident, and beginning to believe that she could create a life for herself. The town, which had once seemed intimidating, now felt like a place of possibility, breaths, and the ranch, with its wide fields, hard-working animals, and kind-hearted cowboy, felt like a home she had chosen for herself. Emma knew her journey was just beginning, breaths. She did not yet know what the future held. But for the first time, she believed that she could face it with courage and determination.
The girl who had been sent away for being ugly was beginning to discover her own beauty, not in her appearance, but in her heart, her strength, and her spirit.
Press. And somewhere in the quiet of the barn, with the soft neighs of the horses and the rustle of the wind in the trees, Emma allowed herself to dream. She could be more than what her family had said. She could be someone who mattered, someone who was valued. And she was determined to prove it, not to them, but to herself. Emma quickly realized that life in the town was not going to be easy. Her aunt's house was busy, loud, and unforgiving. The children ran wild, and Emma had to keep up with cleaning, cooking, and errands. Every time she thought she had a moment to rest, her aunt would call her for another task. Emma worked quietly and diligently, never complaining, but the feeling of being invisible followed her like a shadow. She sometimes caught herself staring at the other girls in town, girls who were lively, cheerful, and confident. They laughed easily with friends and earned attention from everyone. Emma, in comparison, felt plain and awkward. One morning, while walking to the market with a basket of goods for her aunt, Emma heard whispers behind her.
"That's the ugly girl they sent away, right?"
A woman said. Emma's heart sank. She wanted to turn and run, to disappear into the crowd, but she held her head high and kept walking, though her hands trembled around the basket handle. The town had a way of judging anyone who seemed different, and Emma realized that being away from her parents did not mean she was free from ridicule. Breaths. Emma refused to let fear rule her. She spent her days exploring the town after completing her chores, observing the world around her. She watched the cowboys at work on the ranches, the shopkeepers selling their goods, and the children running through the streets with unrestrained joy. She longed to be part of this life, but she didn't yet know how. One day, while delivering vegetables to the ranch on the outskirts of town, Emma saw a man working in the yard. His name was Jack, the owner of the ranch. He was tall and strong, with broad shoulders and hands calloused from years of hard work. He had a quiet presence, a kind of calm authority that made people notice him without him even speaking. Rest. Emma hesitated at the gate, unsure whether she should call out. Jack looked up and gave her a small nod. Breaths.
"Hello there," he said. "Need help with something?" Emma quickly explained that she had come to deliver vegetables for her aunt.
Jack smiled faintly and said, "You can leave them by the barn. There's always work to do here if you're willing." Emma blinked, surprised. She wasn't used to being invited to help. Normally, she would be ignored or scolded, but something in Jack's tone made her feel that she might have a chance to prove herself. The next morning, Emma returned with her small basket of supplies. Jack showed her around the ranch, pointing out the tasks that needed attention. She learned to feed the animals, clean the stalls, and mend fences. It was hard work, much harder than she had ever imagined, but it was rewarding. For the first time, Emma could see the results of her labor, and she felt a sense of pride. Days turned into weeks, and Emma continued to help at the ranch. Jack was patient with her, guiding her through every task without judgment. She learned to ride horses, though at first she was clumsy and unsteady. She fell more than once, scraping her knees and hands, but each fall only made her more determined.
Slowly, she gained confidence. She began to understand the rhythm of the horses, how to guide them gently, and how to anticipate their movements.
The animals seemed to trust her, and she felt a connection she had never felt before. Emma's hard work did not go unnoticed. Jack began to rely on her for more than just basic tasks. He asked her to help with herding cattle, checking fences, and even managing supplies. Emma was nervous at first, but she found that she enjoyed the responsibility. It made her feel capable, useful, and respected, something she had never experienced at home or in town. Even with her growing confidence, Emma still struggled with self-doubt. She remembered the cruel words of her parents and the whispers of the townspeople. But she sometimes questioned whether she was truly good enough, whether she would ever belong anywhere. But Jack's quiet approval and the steady presence of the ranch animals reminded her that her worth was not defined by others' opinions. She began to understand that she had value, not because of her appearance or her family's approval, but because of her courage, her kindness, and her willingness to work hard. One afternoon, while helping with the cattle roundup, Emma faced her first real challenge. A young calf had wandered away and become trapped near the edge of a small river. The water was swift, and the calf was struggling to stay afloat. Emma's heart raced as she ran toward it, calling out in a calm, steady voice to keep it calm. She reached into the water and managed to guide the calf to safety, pulling it onto the bank. She was soaked and exhausted, but a sense of triumph surged through her. Jack arrived moments later, having seen the entire scene. He looked at Emma with genuine admiration. "That was brave of you," he said quietly. Emma felt a warmth in her chest she had never felt before. For the first time, someone had recognized her courage. She realized that she could be brave, strong, and capable, even if the world had told her otherwise. After that day, Emma's confidence grew even more. She began to take on new challenges at the ranch, learning to ride faster, herd larger groups of cattle, and handle unexpected problems. Jack trusted her judgment and often consulted her when decisions needed to be made. Emma felt a sense of belonging she had never known. She was not just a helper. She was a valued part of the ranch. Life at the ranch was not without difficulties. Emma still faced moments of doubt and fear. There were days when the work was overwhelming, when she felt exhausted and unsure of herself. But each time, she reminded herself of how far she had come. She had survived her parents' rejection, the harsh judgment of the town, and the challenges of the ranch. She was stronger than she had ever imagined. Emma also began to form bonds with the other people in town. Though she was still quiet and reserved, she started to make friends with those who appreciated her hard work and kind heart. They admired her determination and her ability to stay calm under pressure. Slowly, Emma realized that she did not need to change herself to be accepted. She only needed to embrace who she truly was. As the months passed, Emma's relationship with Jack grew stronger. It was built on mutual respect and trust. Jack recognized her talents and encouraged her to continue learning. He never judged her for her past or her appearance. Instead, he focused on her abilities and her heart. Emma found herself looking forward to the days she spent at the ranch, eager to learn, help, and grow. One evening after a long day of work, Emma and Jack sat by the barn, watching the sun set over the fields. The sky was painted in shades of pink and gold, and the air was filled with the sounds of animals settling down for the night. Emma felt a sense of peace she had never known. She realized that she had found a place where she belonged, where her efforts were valued, and where she could be herself. Breaths. "I never thought I'd see someone handle a calf like that," Jack said, breaking the silence. "You've got courage, Emma. Brave. More than most people." Emma smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest. "Thank you," she said softly. I'm learning." "You've come a long way. Keep going, and you'll be surprised at what you can do."
Emma watched the sun disappear behind the horizon, feeling a sense of hope she had never felt before.
She knew that challenges still lay ahead, but she also knew that she was capable of facing them. She had survived rejection, hardship, and fear. She had proven to herself that she was strong, capable, and valuable. As the stars appeared in the night sky, Emma made a promise to herself. She would continue to work hard, learn, and grow. She would not let the opinions of others define her. She would embrace her courage, her kindness, and her determination. She would prove above all that she mattered, not because anyone else said so, but because she knew it in her heart. And so, Emma continued her journey, day by day, task by task, growing stronger with every challenge she faced. She was no longer the timid girl sent away from home. She was becoming someone respected, capable, and admired, a young woman discovering her true worth in a world that had once seemed impossible to belong to.
Over the months, Emma grew stronger and more confident at the ranch.
Dad. She no longer hesitated when asked to ride the horses, herd cattle, or repair fences. Jack had begun to trust her completely, letting her handle tasks on her own and even giving her small responsibilities for running the ranch. Emma felt proud, though she never let herself become arrogant. Every day was still a lesson, and she knew she had much to learn. The townspeople, who had once whispered cruel words about her, slowly began to notice a change in Emma. She was no longer the shy, awkward girl who delivered vegetables for her aunt. She moved with purpose, spoke with quiet confidence, and handled every task with skill. People began to respect her, sometimes even offering small compliments. Though she would blush and look away, recognition was new, but it made her feel alive. One Saturday, the town held a small gathering for the local ranchers. Everyone came together to celebrate the harvest, share stories, and watch a few friendly competitions.
Emma had been invited by Jack, who insisted she come along.
At first, she felt nervous, remembering all the whispers and harsh words from before. But Jack simply smiled and said, "You've earned a place here. Don't let anyone make you doubt it."
At the gathering, Emma watched as cowboys demonstrated their skills, roping calves, riding horses, and performing quick tricks with their lariats.
She marveled at their expertise, and a quiet determination grew inside her. She wanted to be capable like them, not just helpful at the ranch, but respected among her peers. Jack noticed her interest and said, "Want to try? I'll show you how." With Jack's guidance, she learned to rope a small wooden dummy, then a calf. Her hands were clumsy at first, and she missed many times, but she didn't give up, Desk. She kept practicing, and with each attempt, she improved. The crowd began to notice her effort, some whispering among themselves, "Look at that girl. Brish. She's learning fast." Emma felt a spark of pride in something she hadn't felt before: belonging. As the weeks passed, Emma became known in town for her dedication and skill. People began to come to her for help or advice regarding horses or farm work. The same whispers of ridicule she had once heard were replaced by words of encouragement. Some still doubted her, but Emma no longer let those voices define her. First, she had learned to trust herself, to value her own abilities, and to find strength in her determination. Despite her growing confidence, Emma still carried memories of her past. There were nights when she would lie awake, thinking of her parents and siblings, and the cruel words they had said. She wondered if they would ever regret sending her away. But Emma realized she didn't need their approval to know her worth. She had built her own path, discovered her own strengths, and found a place where she was respected and valued. One morning, as the sun rose over the ranch, Jack approached Emma with a serious expression.
"We have a problem,"
he said. "A cow got loose last night and had wandered into the woods. We need to get it back before it gets hurt."
Emma's heart raced.
She had never tracked an animal alone before, but she felt ready.
I can help, she said, her voice steady.
They set out together, riding through the open fields and into the woods. Emma followed Jack's instructions carefully, learning to anticipate the cow's movements, guiding it gently without causing panic.
Hours passed, and the sun climbed higher in the sky, but Emma refused to give up. Finally, they managed to lead the cow back to the ranch safely.
Jack looked at her with admiration. "You handled that perfectly," he said. "You're brave, smart, and capable. I'm proud of you." Emma felt warmth flood her chest. She had always dreamed of being seen, of being valued for who she was. For the first time, someone had told her she was more than just plain or useless. Jack's words meant more than she could describe. She realized that bravery wasn't just about facing danger. It was about believing in yourself, even when others doubted you.
The bond between Emma and Jack continued to grow.
They worked side by side, shared meals, and sometimes sat together in silence, watching the sun set over the fields. Jack never pressured her, never judged her past. He simply recognized her talent, courage, and heart. Emma began to feel a quiet affection for him, though she did not fully understand it. She valued his guidance and presence more than she had ever valued anyone else's.
One afternoon, a young boy from town approached Emma at the ranch.
"I've been watching you work," he said shyly. "You're really good with the horses." "Can you show me how to ride?" Emma smiled and nodded. She spent the next hour teaching him, patient and encouraging. As she guided his hands and gave him tips, she realized how much she had grown. She was no longer the awkward girl who had been sent away. She was someone who could teach, lead, and inspire others.
Word of Emma's skills spread throughout the town. People began to respect her knowledge and ability, and she started receiving invitations to help at other ranches.
Some of the same townspeople who had once mocked her now looked at her with admiration. Emma felt a quiet satisfaction. But she had worked hard, faced challenges, and earned her place. Not through charm or beauty, but through courage, dedication, and skill. Yet, despite her growing recognition, Emma remained humble. She never boasted about her accomplishments and continued to work diligently, always striving to improve. She knew that her journey was far from over and that there was still much to learn. Each task, each challenge was an opportunity to grow stronger, to prove to herself that she was capable. As autumn turned to winter, the ranch faced new challenges. Harsh winds and cold temperatures made the work difficult, and the animals required extra care. Emma rose early each morning, feeding the horses and cows, checking fences, and ensuring the ranch ran smoothly. She worked tirelessly, often exhausted, but she never complained. She had learned that hard work was not punishment. It was a path to growth and respect. One snowy morning, a stray horse wandered onto the ranch. Emma noticed it from a distance, shivering and frightened. Without hesitation, she approached it slowly, speaking in soft, calming tones. The horse allowed her to lead it into the stable, where it could be warmed and fed. Psst! Jack watched from the doorway, clearly impressed.
"You've got a way with animals," he said.
They trust you because you care, not because you force them." Emma smiled, feeling a sense of pride. She realized that her bond with the animals was a reflection of her own growth. She had learned patience, courage, and empathy, qualities that had been ignored or undervalued in her past life. She understood now that true strength was not measured by appearance or approval, but by heart, determination, and kindness. As winter progressed, Emma continued to gain recognition in town. People who had once laughed at her began to ask for her advice or help. Children looked up to her. Townsfolk respected her work ethic, and Jack valued her judgment and loyalty. Emma felt a sense of belonging she had never known, a feeling that had seemed impossible when she was called ugly and unwanted.
Despite all this, Emma never forgot her past.
She remembered the rejection, the cruel words, and the nights of loneliness. But she no longer let them define her. Instead, she used them as motivation to continue growing, to prove to herself that she was worthy, capable, and deserving of respect. She had transformed from a timid girl into a strong, confident young woman, a person who had earned her place through courage, hard work, and heart. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in shades of gold and pink, Emma and Jack sat on the porch of the barn, watching the animals settle for the night.
You've come a long way, Jack said quietly.
I've never met anyone as determined as you. Emma felt a warmth in her chest. She had always longed for someone to see her for who she truly was, and Jack had done that without judgment.
I'm still learning, she replied softly. But I feel stronger.
I feel like I belong. Jack nodded. You do belong. You've earned it, Emma. And don't ever forget that. As the stars appeared in the night sky, Emma felt a sense of peace and purpose. She had faced challenges, overcome rejection, and proven to herself that she was capable. She had found respect, recognition, and a sense of belonging in a town that had once seemed impossible to be part of. And yet, she knew her journey was far from over. There would be more challenges, more opportunities to grow, and more chances to prove herself. But Emma was ready. She had discovered her courage, her skill, and her heart. She was no longer the timid girl sent away from home. She was becoming a person of strength, respect, and inspiration. A young woman ready to face whatever the future held. Winter gradually faded, and the first signs of spring appeared over the ranch. The snow melted, revealing green fields and blooming wildflowers. Emma felt the change in the air, as if it mirrored her own transformation. She was no longer the timid, unsure girl who had been sent away months ago. She moved with confidence, her hands skilled from countless hours of work, her heart brave from all she had faced. The townspeople had long since stopped whispering behind her back. Now they greeted her with respect. Farmers and ranchers came to her for advice on horses, cattle, and farm work. Children ran to her whenever she passed by, eager for lessons in riding or her gentle words of encouragement. Emma had become someone they could rely on, a person of strength and integrity. Yet she remained humble, never boasting of her skills or accomplishments.
She had learned the value of quiet confidence. Jack noticed the change more than anyone.
The shy girl he had first seen timidly delivering vegetables had grown into a capable young woman. She could handle the horses with ease, lead the cattle through the fields, and make decisions on the ranch when needed.
Jack respected her more with every passing day, not just for her abilities, but for her heart and determination.
He began to see her as not only a partner in the work, but as someone invaluable to the ranch itself.
One morning, as they checked the fences along the northern edge of the ranch, Emma spotted a problem. A section of the fence was broken, and some cattle had wandered dangerously close to the creek. Without hesitation, she mounted her horse and guided the animals back to safety, securing the fence afterward.
Jack watched her, admiration written across his face.
You've done this so naturally, he said. I trust you completely now, Emma. You're more than I could have hoped for in someone helping me here. Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest. She realized that her journey had not only taught her skills, but had given her a sense of pride and belonging. She had been the girl everyone called ugly, the one who had been sent away. Yet here she was, respected, admired, and valued, not for her appearance, but for her courage, skill, and heart. She had finally discovered her true worth. The town began to celebrate her achievements quietly at first. People would mention her name when talking about capable workers or reliable ranch hands. Breath.
Eventually, she was invited to help at local events, including community rodeos and harvest celebrations. Emma's confidence in front of others grew steadily.
She no longer hesitated, no longer doubted herself. She had found her place, and people saw it too. Narration. During one of the town's rodeos, Emma faced her greatest public challenge yet. A runaway horse had broken loose and panicked, racing toward the crowd. Without a second thought, Emma mounted her own horse and rode out to intercept it. She moved carefully, coaxing the animal to slow down. The crowd watched in awe as she guided the horse safely back to the corral, her movements steady and sure. When she returned, Jack was waiting with a proud smile. "Perfectly," he said. "You were brave, calm, and skilled." Everyone saw that. Emma blushed, but felt a deep satisfaction. She had proven to herself that she could face fear and succeed. That moment solidified her place in the community. The people who had once doubted her now respected her, and for the first time, Emma felt truly accepted. Life continued on the ranch, each day bringing new challenges and opportunities.
Emma found joy in her work, in the animals, and in the relationship she had built.
She became a mentor to other young girls who wanted to learn about ranch life, teaching them how to ride, care for animals, and work the land. She encouraged them to believe in themselves, sharing quietly her own story of rejection and triumph. Her kindness and dedication inspired many, and she realized that helping others gave her even more fulfillment than her own success. Jack and Emma spent more time together during these months. Their bond had grown from mutual respect to something deeper. He admired her strength, her courage, and her unwavering dedication. Breath. She admired his wisdom, kindness, and steady support. They often worked side by side in the fields, shared meals under the open sky, and sometimes sat together in silence, watching the sun set. In those quiet moments, they found comfort and trust in one another. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in golden hues, Emma and Jack stood on a hill overlooking the ranch. "You've changed so much," Jack said softly. "I've watched you grow, learn, and overcome so many challenges. You're amazing, Emma." Emma looked out over the fields, the animals grazing peacefully, and the small town in the distance. She felt a deep sense of accomplishment and pride.
"I never thought I'd be here," she admitted.
"Not after everything, but I've learned that strength isn't about how others see you. It's about how you see yourself." Jack nodded. "Exactly. And you've proven that in every way." Spring fully arrived, and with it, new beginnings. Emma had fully embraced her life at the ranch, no longer defined by the words of her past. She had built her own identity, one that reflected courage, dedication, and heart. She had become not just a skilled ranch hand, but a trusted friend, mentor, and integral part of the community. One afternoon, as Emma tended to the horses, a group of children from town approached. They wanted to learn how to ride safely. Emma smiled, showing them how to mount and guide the horses gently. She laughed with them, shared stories, and watched their faces light up as they gained confidence. She realized that her own journey had prepared her to help others, to inspire courage in those who needed it most. Jack watched from a distance, a proud smile on his face. He had seen her grow from the timid girl sent away into someone strong, capable, and respected. He felt a deep admiration and quiet affection for her, though he never forced his feelings. He knew that Emma's journey had been about her finding her strength and worth, and he wanted to honor that. As the sun set one evening, casting long shadows across the fields, Emma stood on the porch of the barn, looking out at all she had achieved. The horses were calm, the cattle settled, and the town in the distance glowed softly in the evening light. She felt a sense of peace she had never known as a child. She had faced rejection, hardship, and doubt, and she had emerged stronger, wiser, and more confident.
She thought of her parents, of the words they had spoken when they sent her away.
She did not feel anger anymore. Instead, she felt a quiet satisfaction. Their judgment had not defined her. Their cruelty had not held her back. She had created her own life, built her own identity, and earned respect through courage, hard work, and heart. The ranch was now more than a place of work. It was home. The animals trusted her, the townspeople respected her, and Jack valued her beyond measure. Emma realized that she had become a person of influence and inspiration, someone who could face challenges and help others do the same. One morning, Jack approached Emma as she finished feeding the horses. "You've become my greatest treasure," he said simply, inspiration. Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had always hoped to be valued, respected, and seen. But hearing those words from Jack felt like a confirmation of everything she had worked for. Emma smiled softly, a mixture of gratitude and pride in her eyes. Burst. I never expected that, she said.
I just wanted to find my place. You've done more than that, Jack replied. You've shown courage, heart, and strength.
That makes you invaluable. Emma realized in that moment that she had truly come full circle. The girl who had been called ugly, sent away, and ignored had become someone loved, respected, and cherished.
She had built a life from her own courage and determination. She had transformed her past pain into strength and had found her true home on the ranch, among the people and animals who valued her for who she truly was. As the years passed, Emma continued to thrive. She became known in town and on nearby ranches as a skilled, reliable, and kind-hearted young woman. Well, she helped train others, led projects, and even took on leadership roles at community events. People admired her not for her looks, but for her heart, her intelligence, and her unwavering courage.
Rising.
Through it all, she never forgot where she had come from. She remembered the pain of rejection and the harsh words of her family. But instead of letting those memories weigh her down, she used them as motivation.
They reminded her of how far she had come and of the strength she had discovered within herself.
Emma had become more than a skilled ranch hand, more than a respected member of the town. She had become a symbol of courage and determination, someone who proved that self-worth comes from within, not from the judgment of others. But she had turned rejection into triumph, hardship into strength, and invisibility into recognition. And as she rode across the open fields, feeling the wind in her hair and the sun on her face, Emma knew that she was finally free. Free from the doubts of her past, free from the harsh words of others, and free to live the life she had worked so hard to build. She was no longer the girl sent away for being ugly. She was a strong, confident, and respected young woman, a true treasure in every sense of the word.